but let's discuss some of the things, some of the places where maybe we differ from the rest of maybe the draft world. So let's start with our number one player. Let's discuss the debate at the top.
Okay.
We decided on Kyler Murray.
Yes.
At number one.
We decided on it. I compromised to Kyler Murray at number one because it's in my mind. So I look at it like this. If you're going to take a quarterback highly, you better feel confident that he's a franchise guy, and not just a franchise guy. I think you have to think he's capable of top 5, top 10, not Kirk Cousins sort of play. Not that step below where it's good, but I think you want a guy who can carry you to a Super Bowl. For my money, Kyler Murray has those sort of traits, and especially when you factor in his running ability. I don't see Dwayne Haskins. For me, he caps out in that tier below,
right,
which at that point, then I'm not putting him at the top of my big board. I don't see him being that guy. I think he can very well be in the Kirk Cousins range. I could foresee him being that sort of quarterback, which, again, has a ton of value. That's why you drafted highly. But to me, if you're a quarterback that is capable of being in that upper echelon of QBs, that's when you can go number one. That's when you're number one in our big board. Yeah,
so again, from an eval standpoint, the guys that are 2 and 3 on this list, we feel better about them as players.
Yes.
From a value standpoint, Kyler Murray is our number one QB on the board. He's going to be, nothing's going to change in that regard. The numbers are pointing toward him being the top quarterback. Our eyeballs, whether it's Zach Robinson, his opinion on it, or everyone else around the company, not saying it's consensus, but we feel pretty good about Kyler Murray. Not as good as Baker Mayfield, but feel good about him at number one. Tell me about 2 or 3.
And then 2 and 3, Nick Bosa, Quinnen Williams. For me, for them to bust, for them to not live up to and be at least high-quality starters at the NFL level, injuries, it would have to be injury-wise or something off the field.
Yeah.
Completely. They're on field. I have absolutely zero questions about them translating to the next level, being successful NFL players. At that point, that's why they're 2 and 3. Any player, regardless of position, if you were that to me, you would be 2 or 3, maybe not running back.
So the confidence level in what they're going to do at the next level is extremely high. Especially given what we've seen from our defensive line grades. Bosa has been an elite defensive lineman in our grades. Quinnen Williams had the best grade we've ever seen from an interior defensive lineman, so we feel good about those two guys. Let's go to where. So Kyler's the first one where we really differ from the consensus. Give me some other name. What are some other guys that we feel better about than maybe the general consensus out there?
Well, at number 11, checked in Jerry Tillery, defensive tackle,
that's a big one.
Notre Dame. And yeah, that's a big one. Being a top 12 sort of talent in this draft class, above any of only Jeffrey Simmons and Quinnen Williams were higher on our defensive tackle list. And Simmons, we obviously are saying he tore his ACL early. We think he could even come back as a rookie with how early he tore his ACL. At that point, if you're not missing a whole year, we trust doctors, we trust rehab. We're not going to give our medical opinion on this guy. We think talent-wise, that's where he deserves to be. But then Jerry Tillery, in my mind, is the best pass-rushing defensive tackle in this class after Quinnen Williams. The most pass-rushing moves in this class, and I don't think he's going to be a great run defender. But again, you don't need to be a great run defender as long as you're solid in that regard. What he can do as a playmaker, what he can do in the passing game, is that valuable in my opinion.
Yeah, he can get after the QB. We're seeing. I've seen him in the late first. I've seen him in the second round in various big board rankings and draft boards and all that. So
the interesting thing with him is I've seen consistency being noted as a knock on him. And yes, early in his career, that was certainly the case. This past season, though, game in, game out, he was disruptive. There weren't games he took off. While he had like a majority of his sacks in the Stanford game, had a ton of sacks in that game and didn't have sack production consistently throughout the year, he was still pressure production for, in our grading, very consistent.
Yeah, you know how I don't love the consistency argument because we have every snap. And if the grade still comes out on top, then you're probably okay, like we talked about last week. The two cornerbacks that I said we'd be a little bit higher on some than others, Greedy Williams and Byron Murphy. Greedy Williams from LSU, Byron Murphy from Washington. We have Murphy at 6, Williams at 9. Again, I don't know that we feel like they're, it's tough to say that they're slam dunk corners, but they're good enough. The value in the top 10 makes a ton of sense. Other people have them more at the bottom end of the first round. Greedy Williams' grade wasn't as great this past year. But I think I tweeted this out recently. When you just look at our 3-year grades, and that's what I love about the database that we have now is we've got these guys' entire career. Taking the last 3 years, it's DeAndre Baker from Georgia, Byron Murphy from Washington, Greedy Williams, all very close to each other in overall grade. Very different styled corners, but guys we're all going to say are going in the top 10 or top 10 players in this draft.
Yeah, the Byron Murphy to me he's the best cornerback in this draft. I think he's the safest cornerback in this draft. I could foresee someone being better down the line, but he has the change of direction ability that you love at the cornerback position. The athleticism checks all those sort of boxes. Yes, he's undersized. May not be a press man corner, but zone and off coverage is still what you'll see more of any coverage at the NFL level. So I think any sort of scheme that's zone heavy, he is your guy. He is your top corner on your board because he's so good in off coverage, so good at breaking on routes that I think that automatically translates to the next level. That sort of instincts and athleticism translates to the next level.
So many plays where he just plays with his eyes on the QB, and that's it's very much going to be scheme dependent. I like Greedy Williams as a press man corner. I like Murphy in zone, like you said. I like DeAndre Baker maybe as the best hybrid of the two. You mentioned Tillery, and then Andre Dillard. I don't know if we're higher on him than others. I've seen more mid-first round type stuff for him, but a guy that's been excellent in pass protection at Washington State, and we know that's the most important thing for offensive tackles. I feel like the rest of these offensive tackles beyond, say, Jonah Williams come with some question marks when it comes to pass pro, and I think that moves Dillard a tick above some of the others.
Yeah, he has a handful of different sets that he utilized at Washington State, very adept at all of them, and has the best first punch of any of these tackles in this draft class. Super long arms, just stonewalls pass rushers in their tracks. And he just didn't have, even though he gave up a handful of pressures this year, some of them came on stunts, just didn't have any ugly reps that some of these guys did. He pretty much never gets himself in bad positions as a tackle, never really ends up whiffing for air. So for that reason, I think he's the second best tackle in this class after Jonah Williams.
And then Dalton Reisner, a guy that we're still higher on than most, but I think between Dalton Reisner and Jawan Taylor from Florida, Reisner, of course, goes to Kansas State. Between those two guys, I feel better about them in the run game than in pass protection. My only question with Reisner is, he wasn't really challenged in the Big 12, had some ugly reps at the Senior Bowl, even though overall he was pretty good. I really, really want to love him because the production was outstanding, but you kind of have to adjust it because of the Big 12.
Yeah, he doesn't have the foot speed that the other guys have on this list. Jawan Taylor, Dillard, Jonah Williams. He just doesn't have that sort of quicks. And on the edge, he holds up great against power. I mentioned the Montez Sweat game before, how he won that matchup, in a powerful, long edge rusher like Montez Sweat, who's getting first-round hype himself, wins that matchup. But when he goes to Senior Bowl, sees some guys with quicks, all of a sudden he looks like a fish out of water. Quickness is going to give him an issue. Teams may see him as a guard. I think he still hold up a tackle, but that's why he's a notch below these guys.
One other guy I want to mention, Will Grier, the quarterback from West Virginia. Is this your upside quarterback in the draft, Mike?
Oof. I love you saying upside there because, again, no one knows what it means. Literally doesn't have a big arm. No one else would call him an upside quarterback, but he's accurate, and has been accurate at all levels of the football field in our quarterback charting. And as you said, the analytics point to those being good indicators of NFL success. So we think, he has upside. Oh, he has this because he's accurate at throwing a football. But still, there are question marks. And I go back to the Senior Bowl, which it was bad.
I don't want to overrate the Senior Bowl, but it was not good.
You come to perform there. It's more of a pressure. It's more how you react to the pressure of this situation being your biggest job interview yet, and he did not react well.
And just to compare to what Baker Mayfield did last year, the whole tick every box concept, Baker did that. His off-field, what other people called antics, we looked at it and said, man, that type of confidence looks great. Senior Bowl, Baker played well. Everything else played well. So if you're Will Grier grading well in our system, if we saw that good week at the Senior Bowl and he just kept ticking every box along the way, you'd feel a little better about him. But I still think maybe if he's a back end of the first, if you're talking about the Saints don't have the first round pick anymore, but the Patriots looking for their next guy to develop, I wouldn't mind Will Grier as that guy if I'm a team looking to develop someone, maybe more than I would want Daniel Jones, and who looks like an upside quarterback.
Well, again, because you go to all the quarterbacks who have been late rounders developed into elite or high level quarterbacks, Tony Romo, Tom Brady, those sort of guys. Did they have cannons?
Even Dak.
Even Dak
as a fourth rounder.
Did they have very strong arms and all of a sudden figured out how to throw accurately? No, they're accurate and all of a sudden figured out how.
Who are the guys that have done that? Where are the Logan Thomases, the Christian Hackenbergs, the guys who we're not picking on Hack again.
Okay.
He doesn't even have a big arm.
But I
the guys that had big arms that figured it out late.
Exactly.
The John Skeltons. That was John Skelton.
Oh,
Cannon,
gosh.
no idea where it's going.
Yeah.
Guess what happened in the NFL? Cannon, no idea where it's going.